Hello everyone, I'm here today with a flip-through video. I'm doing my September trip from New York City, and I'm going to show you roughly the first half of what I've done. It's quite a chunky album, you can see. There's a lot in there, and believe me, that was paring down. So that tells you how full it is. This is a Life Crafted album, the smaller size. So really the largest you can go is pretty much a 4x8 in this album. Here's my opening page. I happen to have this from a set of New York themed stuff that I bought. I think it's Cartabella is who put out the line. And I bought 2 sets of everything just so that I would have it because I'm in New York so much. So I used this one. Kept it really simple. I had a scrap of this gray paper. It worked. It's building themed, perfect for New York. And then I just really kept it minimal the rest of the way. A little bit of cardstock on top and bottom, chipboard, silver star there, tiny little sticker of an airplane, a bag, and then I put my dates in there with a roller stamp. I flew into JFK, so leaving, you go through Queens, and I had this picture from the train, as you can tell, so I just used some simple letter stickers. I have multiple stamp sets that are for New York, so I just used one that had all the boroughs. I used Queens, slapped a date on it. And then here, I did take the LIRR in to Grand Central. It's kind of hit or miss when I take the LIRR because you can only detrain at either Grand Central or Penn Station. So if you're not close to either of those, it may not be worth taking it. So it really depends on where the hotel is. This time it worked because I needed to go to Grand Central specifically, so I took the LIRR. And here's the tunnel coming up when you detrain on the LIRR, and I was meeting Robin in the main hall of Grand Central, but I never get tired of seeing this. I find it pretty, actually. I love city architecture, so I find it pretty and exciting when I know, I'm really in New York now again. I kept the embellishments minimal. All I did was add this little piece of ephemera right there. And then over here, we had time to get coffee and donut before we had to go on to our next thing, and so I cut out a fussy cut around the donut. The sad part is this looks really cute. It wasn't that good. So if you go there, maybe pick a different donut and not this one. So I just talked a little bit about what we were doing, that she came to LaGuardia. I had JFK, so that's why we're meeting at Grand Central. It's a good meeting point. And then we were just kind of hanging around the station waiting for our train because we had almost an hour. We needed a Metro North train, not a subway train. So in order to get the Metro North train that we needed, we had to wait almost an hour. So we had time to kill. And then here is another piece from that New York kit that I had. And it matched fairly well. Not a perfect match, but close enough. And I love that it said, "Hello, New York," because this was our first stop. Once we were on our Metro North train, we got out at Phillips Manor. So I just talked about why we're up there. And normally I choose to use the app when I do Metro North trains, but this time Robin wanted to get paper ones to scrap and she didn't have the app. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to get a paper one too, and then I can put it in there. So saved my ticket and I scrapped it. I just used an attacher here to get that in there. And on the back, it's kind of hard to see on the sign, but it does say Phillips Manor. So wanted to put that in there because it was so beautiful. This was mid-September, so it was still beautiful weather. Things were blooming, and it was lovely to see. When we got to Phillips Manor, the tour to actually go out and see the property, the times did not work from when we got there, and we knew we had to move on to something else after too, so we chose to skip the tour. We actually ended up spending the most time in their gift shop. They had a lot of great stuff in there. So I have lots of pictures of that, more than the grounds or anything else. But we had a good time, just walking around and looking at stuff. And I chose to do 2x2 pockets so that I could fit in more of all of the decor that was in the shop. And then I had fun picking out these circular elements to fill the rest of the pockets. And this side is just more from the gift shop. And I talked a little bit about that as well. Go. And then after that, we were outside walking around. So this is actually in Sleepy Hollow. So we were walking around, we found the Headless Horseman Bridge, and we were a little disappointed. We thought it was going to be much older, but they have a newer modern bridge where you can cross. So it wasn't quite as exciting as we thought, but at least, we got the historical marker, I guess. So that was there. And then here is a little more of the story about it. Obviously, it's a very big deal in that town. They kind of promote it as much as they can. So I got that sign as well. Our next stop was the Old Dutch Church of Sleepy Hollow, as you can see. We wanted to go there specifically because there are more than a handful of famous people buried there, but maybe the most famous is Washington Irving, who wrote the whole Headless Horseman Sleepy Hollow tale. So of course we wanted to see that. So we did actually get a map and figure out where that was. But here is the designation of the church. So there's a whole thing about it being a national landmark. So we did get to see that. We only saw the outside of the church, not the inside. That was closed. And then we headed out into the cemetery. And there are lots of old, cool, historic graves because clearly this area was settled far earlier than other parts of the United States. So you can see some very old headstones in there. Here's more in the cemetery. And I just really tried to pick out some fun, kind of Halloween-y, fall-themed things. I wanted that to be the vibe. So you can see I have more of the mausoleums and headstones and things. And then I just tried to pick out stickers that would match. So, and these all came from the same sticker sheet. This is the one that's from Echo Park. And the colors worked really well with it. So I thought, well, I'm going to go with it then. And I even had little headstones and, of course, the pumpkins work. Here's the grave of Washington Irving. There's actually a gate there, so you can't, go right up to the stone, but you can see it. But I'm sure they had to put something there, too, to just keep out the traffic, especially when it's Halloween time. The cemetery, by the way, if you're interested in doing this, the cemetery does offer night tours, and we wanted to do one so badly, but we were a little bit early. I believe they started the next weekend after we were there. So just kind of keep your timing in mind. And then here's part of the map. I cut it out so that you could see that Washington Irving's grave is on here, and it's pretty close to the front. So you kind of come in, here's the church. You're walking up to this little area. It's right here. So you don't even really have to go that far. But I recommend going further into the cemetery if you can. We could see a lot of it, and it was quite beautiful, actually, the grounds. So explore as much as you can. Here I just did a little insert. Before we left, we decided to do a virtual challenge. It's walking challenges. Pacer does them. Conqueror does them. So we chose to do the one that was the Corpse Bride. We felt that was a little fitting for Sleepy Hollow and fall-themed things. And I just talked about that as well, but I wanted to get that in there because we put in a lot of steps towards this challenge while we were in New York. And then here is another page. It's all 2x2s. This is more from the town. We decided to walk into town and check out some of the shops. We didn't buy a whole lot, just a couple of things for scrapping purposes really, but otherwise not a whole lot. And then again, I used some circular elements to fill in the pockets here and just try to match the colors as best I could. And then after that, we knew we were going to have somewhat of an early dinner because we were going to an event later. So we wanted to make sure we could get dinner in while we could. And we found a Greek place in Sleepy Hollow. And it was a bit of a walk and kind of down a hill to an older area of the city. But we found it. It was called Santorini, very Greek. So kind of fun outside. And then we had really, really good food there. We were both pleased with our choice. So I cut out part of the menu to include here, just one little puffy sticker. And then this page is actually a flip out. And you can see all of our stuff here. So we had tomatoes, we had the lemon potatoes, which are great. She had pork, I think that was pork, souvlaki. And we've got salad here. It was all delicious. And then before we left the town itself, we wanted to get a picture in front of the sign. So we did that. And as we were standing there, 2 more people walked up and they were doing the same thing. So they took our photo for us. We took their photo for them, which was nice. So we got that in, and I just kept it very simple. A little bit of a background, a leaf, one little phrase, that's it. Because it's only 3x8, it didn't need a whole lot. And then here, this was a brochure I picked up all about Halloween events and things happening in Sleepy Hollow. So here's kind of the inside to talk about some of it. And I took this apart. I think it was like 6 pages in total, but some of it was stuff like I didn't need. So I cut it apart, put this on the inside, and sort of made my own altered brochure from it. And then on the back to save space, I decided to just put my next page right on top of it. So I had a lot of journaling room here, and it allowed me to talk about how we grabbed an Uber to go up to our next event. So we could have grabbed a train up there. The train does go there. We actually took the train back. But for time, we decided to do Uber because it would be way faster than waiting another hour and a half for a train. So we got up to the Blaze event. We were pretty much there right when it opened. Like, it was still light outside when we got there. And it was also opening night. So it was the first night of the 2025 season. And we'd heard mixed things. We weren't sure what to expect. We ended up really, really loving it. It was one of the best things we did. So if you're in the area or thinking about going to Sleepy Hollow and doing this for Halloween time, definitely do it. So these are just more photos from inside the event. This was very purpley themed. My shirt was kind of pinky purple, so I wanted to use any purple that I could. So this card fit the bill. And then here, this was actually before you go into the event. You could buy pumpkins on the outside. And then they had these little displays up. And I thought they were so cute the way they were done. So I wanted to showcase those as well. And here I just did a little bit of stamping on a label, slapped on this little sticker, and that's really all it took. So since I had a 4x8 slot available, I did an enlargement here. So you can see it says Jack-o'-lantern Blaze. So that's the event. And I actually ended up printing this one at home because I didn't want to wait for another photo order. I just wanted the album done. So I printed it myself. It's not the best quality. I think I need to mess around with my printer settings a little bit when I do enlargements like this. So it doesn't look as good as some of the other ones that were professionally done, but I'll take it. It's fine. And over here, more 2x2s. I think this album has the most 2x2 pockets that I ever did, like in all of 2025. And so here you can see it's just a lot of different pumpkins that were carved kind of as you go in. And then I chose to do a fun sequin mix in there and seal the pocket with my fuse tool. And on this side, these were pumpkins specific to their display on Celtic knots. And they did such a good job. These were so intricate that I wanted to showcase these before we moved on to another area. And then this is a flip out, and so there are more in here. So I had 2 more. And the color scheme was a little bit different on these than here. This was very blue based. So I wanted to keep those together. And I put these over here where this card matched a lot better. And I even happened to have a border sticker with the webs. So that turned out pretty perfect. The top fold here, I just wanted to showcase that windmill. It was so cool. And everything you're seeing here is made of pumpkins, like everything. So it's crazy to think that they built this all out of pumpkins. And I loved the colors, very non-traditional for Halloween time. And so I wanted to be able to use another purple card. And it had both the purple and kind of the sort of aqua / light teal, whatever color you want to call that. It just matched really well. And then they had an area that was kind of farm animals or farm themed. I loved the horse, so I wanted to put that in there. And then the sunflower pumpkins were so pretty, so I put those in as well. And then here I wanted just something a little different on top here, so I decided to go pink as the main color. And I didn't really need to journal because I had done journaling, so it worked out perfectly that I could just use a tag and some stickers. And then the inside is another enlarged photo. That one was professionally done, so it definitely looks better. And I just did a cluster of stuff down here in colors I thought looked good with it, and then a simple title. And then this was one of my favorite areas of the displays because it was all New York themed. So the Statue of Liberty is completely done in pumpkins here. It was awesome. Lots of people were stopping to take photos of that. And then a rat with pizza because, of course, New York City, right? And then a pigeon. You gotta have the pigeon. And because these were so busy, I just did very, very minimal embellishing here because that's all it needed. And they also had an area where they had all the zodiac signs. I just did a couple. I didn't need to put all 12 in here. That like would have been crazy. So I just picked a couple where I liked the colors that went together. I had some sparkly paper that worked. Didn't take a whole lot to put that together. And then this was one of my favorites, this lighthouse. Look at that. And it's even like colored differently, lit up differently. They did a super good job. So I had that one in there and one embellishment. That's it. Didn't need anything else. And then over here, they had a headless horseman area because, of course, Sleepy Hollow is close by. Why not do that? So I have him here. Again, totally made all out of pumpkins. I just added this embellishment here. And then I had so much fun putting together a sequin mix that would feel Halloween-y and match what they were doing. So I also had 2 sequin layouts in this album, which I don't do a ton of, but I like them. And then over here, the Headless Horseman bridge. And again, I did a similar thing. I just did a kind of a cluster at the bottom. Used some enamel dots. That was enough. And then over here is the last one in this first half of the album. I kind of just needed a filler here because I knew on the other side I had something 3x8. This I just needed something. I happen to have this 3x8 card already printed, which was great. So I used that. I just added the skeleton sticker and the Get Spooky Witches, and it was done. So now you've seen the whole first half of this album. It is incredibly full. I've had a great time putting it together, and I hope you'll come back for day 2. Thanks for watching.